The traditional male understanding of loyalty is often constructed like a fortress. Built on the bedrock of permanence and principle, man operates from a place of logic and commitment. He makes a choice, gives his word, and from that moment forward, his loyalty is a settled matter. It is a decision made, a line drawn in the sand that he will not cross. His internal mantra is, "I chose her, I made a promise, therefore I stay." This perspective views loyalty as a constant and unchanging pillar that stands, regardless of the changing weather of daily life or fleeting emotions. It is a commitment to the structure itself, believing the foundation is strong enough to endure any storm. In stark contrast, for many women, loyalty is not a logical conclusion, but an emotional ecosystem. It is not a permanent static structure, but a flowing current, entirely dependent on the climate of her feelings. Her loyalty is sustained and justified by a continuous sense of security, feeling desired and experiencing aliveness within the relationship. The statement "I feel, therefore I stay" is her unconscious operating principle. Consequently, when those foundational emotions inevitably shift as feelings do, her sense of loyalty can begin to fracture and erode. She may not consciously set out to cause harm or betrayal. She is simply navigating her world based on the compass of her internal emotional landscape, which she has been taught defines her ultimate reality. This fundamental difference in wiring is the core reason so many men feel blindsided and bewildered when a partner leaves. They believed they were both building a fortress together, only to realize their partner was living in a weather vane, turning direction with the wind of every new feeling, leaving them alone inside the walls they thought were permanent. If the natural state of female loyalty is emotionally fluid, then modern culture functions as a relentless storm, actively churning those waters and destabilizing any sense of commitment. The societal narrative has shifted from one of endurance and shared sacrifice to one of instant gratification and the paramount pursuit of personal happiness. Women are consistently bombarded with messages that champion the self above all else. You deserve it now. Don't wait. Don't settle. Don't endure discomfort. This mantra reframes any feeling of stagnation or routine, not as a natural phase of a long-term relationship, but as a personal failing of the partnership itself. The whispered implication is that a partner's job is to provide perpetual excitement, and if he fails to manufacture that feeling, he is lacking, thus justifying the search for it elsewhere. This cultural shift is amplified exponentially by technology, which has fundamentally altered the landscape of temptation. Where once a woman's options and sources of validation were limited to her immediate physical environments, her workplace, social circle, or community, she now holds a global marketplace of potential suitors in her pocket. Social media, dating, apps, and constant digital connectivity provide a fire hose of external attention, curated compliments, and seemingly viable alternative options. Every like on a photo, every flirtatious DM, and every comment on a post is a small deposit of validation from a new source. This creates a poisonous environment of constant comparison, where the exciting, novel attention of strangers is weighed against the familiar, steady loyalty of her committed partner. The new attention feels vibrant and valuable precisely because it is new, while the partner's devotion is often rendered invisible, taken for granted because it is a constant. This endless supply of fantasy men doesn't just present temptation. It actively feeds the illusion that a perfect, more exciting option is perpetually just one swipe away, making deep investment in a single, real man an increasingly difficult challenge. Beyond external pressures, the internal architecture of the female psyche often contains inherent conflicts that further challenge the notion of steadfast loyalty. A primary tension is the frequent confusion of stability with monotony. While many women explicitly state a desire for a good, reliable man, they can later mistake his consistency for dullness. The very predictability that initially provided a sense of security can, over time, feel like a cage. This can lead to a restless craving for chaos and emotional intensity, which is often misinterpreted as passion. The comfort of a known and safe partner becomes overshadowed by the romanticized thrill of the unknown. The mystery of someone new who represents not necessarily a better life, but a different one. This restlessness is powerfully compounded by the instinct of hypergamy, the deeply ingrained biological and social impulse to seek the best available mating option. In a prehistoric context, this meant seeking the strongest provider for survival. In the modern world, it translates into a continuous, often subconscious, evaluation of a partner's status, ambition, confidence, and value relative to other visible men. In a world of endless digital choice, this evaluative process never ceases. If a man is not perceived as constantly evolving, improving, or firmly maintaining his frame and purpose, is a silent thought that I can potentially do better can easily take root. This isn't a conscious decision to be disloyal, but a quiet, background process that slowly and insidiously erodes the foundation of her commitment from the inside out. Ultimately, the practice of loyalty requires profound personal discipline, the willpower to resist tantalizing temptation, the strength to deny immediate impulses, and the maturity to value long-term fulfillment over short-term gratification. However, in a culture that champions the philosophy of following one's heart without restraint, where every impulse is treated as a valid truth, the muscle of discipline is rarely exercised and remains critically underdeveloped. When a feeling fades or a new spark ignites elsewhere, the cultural and internal script advises pursuit, not perseverance. Consequently, true loyalty is replaced by the default pursuit of whatever feels most compelling in the immediate moment, vulnerable to the whims of every passing emotion. A crucial, often overlooked reason for the erosion of loyalty is the near-total absence of cultural accountability, which functions as a key enabler for shifting commitments. When a woman's loyalty wavers or breaks, the prevailing modern narrative is rarely one of condemnation. Instead, it is quickly reframed and excused through a therapeutic lens. Actions that would be rightly defined as betrayal are repackaged as necessary steps on a journey. She wasn't happy anymore, was on a path of self-discovery, or was simply choosing herself. This linguistic shift is powerful. Leaving a man who dedicated himself to her is celebrated as empowerment, and betraying a partner's trust is justified as personal growth. This creates a devastating and demoralizing double standard that actively discourages the development of moral fortitude. When a man is disloyal, the judgment is swift and severe. He is condemned as weak, deceitful, and fundamentally unworthy. His actions are seen as a reflection of a flawed character. Conversely, a woman who commits the same act is often met with a wave of sympathy and a ready-made list of justifications that implicitly, and sometimes explicitly, place the ultimate blame on the man she left. He must have failed to meet her needs, or didn't make her happy. This external environment sends a clear message. There are rarely lasting social consequences for a woman who abandons her commitment without a strong, consistent cultural voice. Advocating for the virtues of endurance, integrity, keeping one's word even. When it is difficult, the concept of loyalty is stripped of its sacredness. It is transformed from a non-negotiable duty into a mere option, a convenience to be discarded the moment it feels heavy. And once loyalty becomes optional, it is already functionally broken, as it is no longer rooted in unwavering principle, but in the fickle soil of feeling and convenience. For a man, the ultimate power lies not in the futile attempt to change a woman's inherent nature or the culture that shapes her, but in a profound shift of his own expectations and strategies. The critical, liberating realization is that a woman's struggle with loyalty is ultimately a reflection of her own character and depth, not a measure of his worth or adequacy. You cannot plead logic or love someone into being loyal. Such a quality must be self-cultivated. Therefore, the wise man ceases his search for guaranteed permanence in another, and instead becomes a ruthless observer of human behavior. He understands that words during times of happiness are cheap. The true test of integrity occurs during periods of boredom, temptation, and difficulty. He notices if she quietly keeps doors cracked open to other men, if she seeks external validation while in a committed relationship, or if her commitment seems conditional on his perpetual performance. This discernment leads him to prioritize values over feelings, He learns to seek a woman whose moral compass is her anchor, not the shifting winds of her emotions. Her integrity must be a stronger force than her transient moods. This is a rare find, and thus he embodies self-loyalty above all else. He builds a life, mission, and sense of self so strong and complete that a woman's presence is welcomed as a privilege and a complement to his existence, not a necessity for it. His primary devotion is to his own standards, purpose, and peace. Consequently, he becomes non-negotiable in his requirements. He offers his loyalty not as a default gift, but as a valued reward to be earned through consistent proof of character. And if a woman fails to meet that high standard, he does not collapse in confusion or rage. He simply, and without melodrama, removes himself. He understands that the ultimate betrayal is not her leaving, but the act of abandoning himself and his core principles for someone who has proven herself unworthy of them. Protecting his own energy, he remains whole, ensuring that his value is never dependent on another's inability to see it.